Too Gojo, too cool. Hey, how's it going everyone? We're here with the first Jujutsu Kaisen release in a while actually. The last one was the badass Nowara, but here we are jumping into the movie line. Now the movie actually comes out on Blu-ray DVD this week, well I should say next week on Wednesday I believe in Japan. So yeah, I guess it's pretty good timing. We have the movie version from the Jujutsu Kaisen Zero movie, Satoru Gojo. Now this figure is basically the same as the original release, however he is rocking that unique white bandana eye mask, and he comes with an effect piece which is cool, and he is full of hands. Very handy figure indeed, so it's something that is really cool to see. Now the box design, as we saw just a moment ago, yeah, matches up with the original really well, and that's really cool. I love they've carried through that same squiggly blue design with this figure. Even the back design there is pretty much identical as well, with a couple of nice images showcasing his accessories and posing ability. If we swing around to the front quickly, one thing to point out, does have the movie logo as well as the Tamashii Nations quality seal sticker there. If you are new to collecting, that is one way to tell if a figure is legit or not. Generally, once a bootleg or any type of fake figure does get released, generally they won't have these stickers on there, so it's at least a quick, easy way to at least get that first impression if it is legit or not. Anyway, enough about that. Let's pop this figure out of a box so we can actually see what he does come with. Okay, so we've got the movie Gojo out of his box here, and in the centre we have him there with his slight smiling face, and then we've got the one eye poking out, that lovely blue eye for eyelashes there, sort of a cheeky smirk, and then the full sort of wide mouth shouting look. Now for hands, he is stacked. That's one thing that this figure does come with. What do we have? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 actual matching pairs. Then we've got additional sort of gripping hand. Then we've got the curse seal sign one, and then we've also got a hand there which the small effect piece will actually slot into his hand there, which is cool. Plus we've got the actual combined hand Jutsu seal hand as well. So yeah, a lot of variety, which is really nice to see, especially since the first releases for these figures were pretty slim with what they did come with. Now being pretty much just a straight re-release of the original figure in terms of body design, it is nice that they went that extra step to give us a nice variety of hands. So if you did buy the original, you do get something extra with this one here to make it a little bit more worthwhile. So yeah, overall I'm pretty stoked with what he does come with. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the amount of hands that this figure has, and I'm hoping we kind of get a similar treatment for the other figures going forward. Now from the movie, hopefully we do get the rest of the first years, and that's sort of Maki, Inumaki and Panda, and then we also have their actual TV series version as well. So hopefully we kind of get something similar where one version will come with lots of accessories and the other one may be a bit more slimmed down. But yeah, anyway, let's pop them out and get a closer look at that finish. So Gojo here is rocking the same body design as the original release, and from what I can tell the colouring is the same as well. We will do a comparison of both figures towards the end of this video, but so far yeah, the overall finish of this figure is really nice. It feels good as well. If you got the original one, I think you'll know exactly what this figure is like. So yeah, so far I feel the finish is nice. It has that rubbery feel to it, but the lower part of his uniform doesn't really hinder his articulation that I've seen so far. Obviously the main big differences compared to the original release is that unique white eye patch bandana that he does rock in the movie. But in terms of kind of a figure aesthetic design choices, the skin tones are actually a lot more softer and natural in this figure. The original one had a bit more of a tanned look, whereas this one is a bit like me, a bit more of a pasty white look. So yeah, I think it's looking very nice in figure form here. And his hair as well, at least from what I can tell, it does look a little bit lighter in colour. We will kind of compare that a little bit closer after we check out the articulation though. And yeah, since this is pretty much a re-release of that original release, if you want to check out that video, that is linked below. I'll put a card if I remember. But you can check out the playlist for Jujutsu Kaisen videos. There's only a few there. I do recommend checking out all the previous releases. So I won't go in great detail for the actual articulation for this one, since it is the overall same body design. But yeah, let's just jump into that now. So starting with the head, everything moves in extremely fluid motion. You've got the excellent tilt action going forward. Bending forward, he can look right down, which is nice, and he can also go up pretty well. If you've seen the new Naruto figures, they have the back hair attached as well to the neck peg to kind of give extra motion. I think if they make a slight redesign like that in the future, that could be really nice, and we get even more articulation out of this figure. But overall, it is really nice. The base, I guess, hoodie part of the neck part will move as well, and then the actual internal neck, then the head on top of that. So you've got a few points of motion there, and everything just kind of moves well together to give a pretty wide range of articulation. So moving down to the shoulders, these, yeah, they feel really nice, not stiff in a bad way, but a very nice resistance on them, so moving them does feel nice, and as you can see, it lifts up well. Yeah, I mean, just like the original figure, it's got the double jointed shoulder area, and everything just feels very nice and firm, and yeah, it's actually quite nice. It can be a little bit tricky to get into the right position for shoulders at times due to the peg, but if you just wiggle around, get into the right position, you shouldn't have any issues reaching some nice points of articulation there. One thing to point out though, his armor does kind of get slightly in the way there to hinder that motion a little bit. Hopefully they kind of take some nice pointers from the new Naruto line, which have really nailed that articulation for the extreme angles. But for his elbow at least, this is really nice. Overall, I mean, the colour matches lovely. Always slightly different match of colour from the inner joints to the actual body, but overall that is matching quite nice. I do have a few little extra run of marks on the outside there, which is a bit of a shame to see, but it's not too bad. I think it will come off with a little bit of rubbing. Down to the wrist, these here have the same kind of solid size peg as the original release as well, so everything is extremely solid, and you have a decent range of motion on the wrist as well. Coming down to the chest area, we've got a somewhat decent range going forward and back, though you do have to be careful if you push it too far. A gap will be exposed in his chest there. But despite that, you can get forward pretty far, which is nice, especially when you add in a little bit of the hip motion as well. Now his jacket does have a split, so this will fold out of the way slightly, so when you do want to actually bend those legs out, you won't get hindered by it and pull it in like what you kind of see with a lot of older figures. So this is a quite a nice soft rubber, even if it is a little bit thick. The knee itself, again, nice range of motion, and yeah, the ankles work really nice as well. So same as the original release, we've got a nice chunky peg in there. You can see the metal rim part there, which isn't quite as pretty as the new Naruto figures, so I do hope we do get an updated version of ankles in the future. But yeah, overall decent motion for going forward and back, while being a pretty stylized foot design, which is nice with the boot. The toe tip point of articulation, pretty similar to other figures, works nicely. So moving over to the faces now, this is the base face that comes on the head, and it's just the neutral smirk, and this is a pretty nice generic face. The lining and the sculpting of it looks pretty nice, and one thing I will point out when we change the head right now, compared to the original, the peg size on the head is slightly larger or slightly longer, but the overall ball peg is the same. Now actually changing the faceplate, they've changed up the design slightly. Might be a little bit hard to see, but you've got two slits at the back and then the two pegs. So on the faceplate as well, it's a little bit fiddly, but you kind of have to pop those pegs in first and then slot it up and in. Now for me it works really good on all the faces except the one with the eye, which I'll put on now. I had to trim the peg slightly. It's a bit hard to tell, but one is slightly larger than the other. So for me on this peg, I think it's the one on the left, it was a bit too big. So if you do have trouble fitting on the faceplate so it will slot in correctly, you can just trim off a little bit of excess plastic. Not 100% ideal, but if you do have any issues like that, very simple and easy to do if you have a hobby knife. Alternatively, if you do have any big issues with that, just contact the customer service line to get a replacement. But let's just take a close look at this face now that we have it on. And yeah, this one looks really nice. The blue eye definitely really pops, especially with the extra eyelash details. So yeah, I think overall this face is really nice. It does give it a little bit more character. I mean, having the eyes hidden, you kind of lose a lot of that emotion that can come through in the figure. So having at least one there with the mask slightly off is really nice. Next up is that cheeky grin. This face is really good, especially when combined with some of the new hands, such as doing the peace one with a thumbs up. So definitely you get a nice range of playability with this figure. Okay, and finally we have the mouth wide open shouting look. This one is pretty nice, pretty simple as well. The one thing that is cool, they do have the sculpted eye sockets in the mask there. So that is nice, so you still get the whole contour of the face coming through, even though it is, I guess, yeah, half of it is covered. So that is really nice to see. So we had a little bit look at taking the hand off before, but if you are new to these figures, just get a nice solid grip on the arm. Get the hand, just give it a little wee wiggle to make sure it's moving, and just pull it in a straight line, and then it'll just pop right off that peg. If you try to pull or push on an angle, that is when you do risk breaking. When you put the hand on, you can check which way the peg will bend, so you can line up to how you want, and then you just kind of line up the hole and just push it straight on like so. And yeah, this is one of the fun new hands that we get, doing the peace sign. So there is one per hand, which is really cool. This face also works really well with the thumbs up hand, which we have for both left and right. So it's same for the peace one as well, got a left and a right version too. So I've got the extra two additional hands that we don't have a matching pair of. We've got the left hand there, which is great for just pulling down his uniform while he's performing his signature move. So yeah, this one hand here does have a hole in it, so you can slot in the effect there like so, and yeah, that definitely works lovely, especially when combined with that blue-eyed face. I think this is going to be one of my favourite looks, but I wonder I'd actually pose them in long term on this display. But yeah, how about you? Let me know in the comments below how you display this version of Gojo in your collection. Okay, do not adjust your set because you are not seeing double. We do have two Gojo here, so time for a little bit of a comparison. On the right here we have the brand new movie Gojo, and then on the left we have the original season 1 Gojo that released last year. Now straight away you'll look at these and think, wow, they basically look exactly the same, except for one has a black eye patch bandana and the other one has white. Well, yeah, I guess 99% of this figure is the same. The first big difference that you'll notice is the skin tone is different. That's something I mentioned a little bit earlier in the video. The new Gojo kind of has that bit more of a pasty, a bit more peachy colour to him, a bit more alive, I guess, compared to the original one there, which has a slightly kind of a darker, duller colour to it. Now that is something I think I might have brought up in the original release or review for this figure, was that his skin tone does look a little bit zombie like, so I much prefer the brand new version. The next part is a little more subtle, but the hair is slightly different. It might be easier to kind of look from top down. Again, the original Gojo is a bit more grey, a little bit muted, whereas the new one is a little bit more vibrant in that colouring there. I mean, they're both grey, just one is a little bit more lifelike, which I think is in the new one. The next difference is even more, I guess, subtle, and that is the neck part. On the new one it is slightly more flared, whereas on the original it is a bit more kind of straight and closer in. Yeah, besides that I haven't noticed any other difference. If you do spot anything, please do let me know in the comments below. But overall I think that is it. The colouring, I feel like the colouring is the same, or the new one is slightly lighter. But that one is a little bit hard to tell. It could just be a slight variation from figure to figure out of the molds, or the colour mixing. Maybe they try to make it the same, but just the ratios are slightly yeah, a little bit brighter for the new one, perhaps. That one I think is quite hard to tell. I think I need to have a look at a few more figures in person. So yeah, that covers it for the differences. I think we can jump into the pros and cons, and I will leave the old Gojo here just for some comparison points and the pros and cons. Now the first pro being that this is the movie version for Gojo, so even though it is basically the same look, he is different, so it is nice that we have that unique release. Secondly, it's another Jujutsu Kaisen release, which is fantastic. It means the line's still going. We've only had 4 releases from the series so far, and there's a lot more characters that I think fans are really hoping to see. And so this is definitely a good sign. And next month we do have Yuta coming, who does look fantastic as well. So super pumped for him. And yeah, if you want to check out a review for that, please do subscribe to the channel so you can be notified as soon as that pops up. But back into the pros, the updated skin tones compared to the previous one, I think there's a huge improvement. Definitely loving that. And same with the hair colour as well. A little bit more, I guess, vibrant. I mean, Gojo himself, he's a pretty goofy character. I think that just comes from being so overpowered that he can just kind of be quite relaxed and free most of the time, which is really nice to see in a character, at least for me. Yeah, the other big pro is he comes with a lot of hands and an effect which the original was missing. That was a con for the first one. No effect blast, which has been rectified in the movie one there. So that is something that I do love seeing. And then we've also got the nice selection of faces from the smiling, neutral, and then the mouth open, screaming, and then the one eye coming out for his reversal red technique. So yeah, jumping into the cons, I don't really have any major cons. I loved the original release from last year, and I feel like the new one is basically just a step up from that one in terms of just the overall improvements from what I found were lacking in the original release. However, I will say I would love to see some updated joint designs. I mean, the ones that we have here are already fantastic, but taking in some of those cool notes and techniques that they use for the brand new Naruto line into these figures will be great. Now obviously one reason to release a almost identical figure, I mean, it definitely probably does help the line, at least to support other characters, since it'll be a lot more limited investment cost compared to a brand new character, which means they can put that into development for future releases. So it's not really a huge con for me having basically a re-release of the same figure. I know a lot of people were kind of on the fence about buying the new one because they already owned the original. Now, I think if you haven't seen the movie, that pretty much holds up, but I think once you see the movie you'll definitely be wanting to pick up the second Gojo for that slightly unique look, and he also has a lot more hands, so that is a great range of playability you have. Now the skin color is different, though, since he has a uniform covering his whole body, no bare exposed arms, it isn't too noticeable when you do switch. I do want to point out that the neck peg on the old one is slightly shorter. But the heads will pop on without any issues. So we can have the mix and matching of hands. Now, it's not the perfect swap. You can kind of see the different skin tone in the neck to the face, with the old head on the new body, and again with the new head on the old body. Though, if you're not really looking too closely at that point, and the hands are far enough away, the skin tone difference isn't a huge issue. And I don't think you'd even notice if you're taking photos, and you can always just do some subtle post-editing adjustments if needed. So, picking up the second version here, at least for the nice arrangement of hands and his technique, is a huge bonus. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the video. Personally, I'm happy I picked up a figure, love it, can't wait for Yuta next month. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to check out more photos for both of these figures and the other Jujutsu Kaisen releases so far, you can check out all those images on Rockchala.com, including a 360 gallery for all of them. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you do have any more questions about this figure, feel free to ask me in the comments below. And again, if you enjoyed, please do click that like and subscribe button, as it really does help. And yeah, until next time, cheers!